Hi, this is Margo. This is Saturday evening, June the 29th, 2019, 6:24 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So, I keep showing the sulfur dioxide because it looks like instead of this mass dissipating over the Arctic, it looks like it's growing. And I don't understand that. Someone left a comment under my video from last night saying that they thought it was being manufactured from Russia, which it very well could be, because it just doesn't make sense that this is all from the 21st and the 22nd when Rykoki blew up. It just doesn't make sense because it's just hanging around way too long. And as it's spreading, instead of it dissipating, it looks like it's still really thick and like it's growing. So people should read that comment under my video from last night from, I can't remember who left it, but I felt like it was a good comment. He did think that the melting of the sea ice is from the water, but the temperature of the water, but it's a combo plate, I believe, and we're seeing it. And as the sulfur dioxide spreads over the Arctic and then it rains and snows, the ash comes down and makes everything melt faster, and it's full of toxins and acid, and it'll eat it up. And plus, that sulfur dioxide will eat away at the ozone layer. So it's a very bad mix. But this is the Pacific view from today, and so we're seeing the blast from Manam volcano from yesterday. We're seeing the sulfur dioxide here, and it did split off into two parts here. The largest one area is coming to the southwest, and it has stopped, and so it was just that one day. But this thing up here is just blowing me away. And if we change to the North Pole view, we can see where the mass is where it is amassing and spreading. And I agree with the commentator saying that a lot of the yellow, the cream colored and gold is from industrial activity, but some of it's not, because where it is coming down and spreading out and dissipating from this big mass, it is dissipating into the gold and the cream colored, and it is coming into over North America like that. So some of it is industrial and some of it's not, just depending. And so this is look at Russia, this whole area over. This is Kamchatka, this is the Okhotsk Sea, or Sea of Okhotsk, and then this is Russia and Siberia, and it looks like it's growing and getting darker, and we have these arms that have broken off that are dissipating, and we've got this one arm that's come all the way across the North Pole, and see, it's coming down on the eastern side of Greenland, and we've got it's just spreading out over the North Pole and over the Arctic. It's spreading out over the Pacific over here. Here's a dark arm that's coming across Canada. So it's a mess. It's a huge mess. And here's Popocatépetl, but it's like nothing compared to all of this. It just kind of makes me sick to look at it, literally. So there's that. We'll leave that as a backdrop. I want to show some Arctic sea ice in a second, but look at Climate Reanalyzer from today. This is precipitation, and, well, let me get back around. So here it is at the North America view. But look up here, it's raining up here in the Beaufort Sea and Chukchi Sea. It's raining over here off the coast of Norway and into the Barents Sea, and it's raining over by Novaya Zemlya. It's raining down here by Iceland. The blue is snow. So there's that. It's also temperature. It's above zero, or right around zero, or above, right around. But most of it is above zero in the Arctic. But the temperatures are just awful in Europe. Look at Spain. I read one article that a manure pile self-combusted and it burned like 10,000 acres in Spain over here in Catalonia. Caught on fire because the methane, because it was so hot. Unbelievable. So there's our temps. I live in Nevada, and it's actually pleasant today where I'm living. And, you know, I feel fortunate. Here's our 2-meter temperature anomaly. It's very warm up here in Siberia. I mean, that's the warmest part. It's getting up into the red zone. And Europe is in the brown zone, and that's where they're setting all their records, and people are dying and things. And the Antarctic, it's got some red and brown, and I've been seeing methane coming up in the Antarctic. It's coming up along the Larsen ice shelves and on this western archipelago, western peninsula, and it's coming up near the Weddell Sea over here, a couple of different places. So I'll show that tomorrow when I do my methane report. I will include the Antarctic methane release too. So I wanted to just quickly give you a peek at the sea ice from today up in the Arctic, because there are not very many clouds. If we go back to Climate Reanalyzer, we can't really tell the difference between the clouds and the ice here, because it's, it's white. You can see the clouds over the oceans, but we can't really tell here. But we can see where it's raining or snowing, but it's pretty cloud free on a lot of the Arctic today. So I wanted to show everyone. I just did my update on the 26th, and so 3 days later, here we are. Look at Greenland over here on the west side. This Baffin Bay is pretty much ice free. This is a cloud. Here are some little ice pieces that are hanging on. So this whole west side of Greenland is ice free now. and this is the nearest strait, and it's melting very quickly. And this is where the old sea ice used to live. It was piled up along the northern coast of Greenland and Canada, the old sea ice, and there is no old sea ice anymore. We can see this is melting very quickly, and we can see all the way up here. You can see how you can see through where it's the ocean. So now we got some clouds here, but over here on the eastern side of Greenland, that's ice free right there, right at the northeast tip. Here's Svalbard. Here's Novaya Zemlya. Now we do have the cloud where it's raining, but this whole west side is ice free. There's very little ice on the east side. This is the Yamal Peninsula, and we don't have any clouds here, and we can see this whole area is melted, and this brown stuff is still coming out. I'm thinking it's sediment that's washing down from maybe these rivers that are emptying into this bay. It's called, here's the name, it's called Gulf of Ob. O-B. So there's still some ice here, but I'm thinking this is this brown, see where it's right down here? There are lots of little rivers that and tributaries that empty into out of the land and into all of these gulfs and the Arctic Ocean and everything. And so as the permafrost is melting, you know, all that stuff is coming down, and that could be some really toxic stuff that's coming in. But it looks kind of brown. It's very dark. I mean, it's dark blue, but it looks, you can see a brownish tinge on top. There's the ice, what's left of it. It's gonna go quickly. It's not very thick. And here's where they were running that icebreaker up during the winter. And so there's that. The Gulf of Ob. Now we've got some clouds over here. This is ice free over here. Here it's melting along this coastline. This is ice free here. Here's a tiny bit of ice that's left here. We can see it's broken up very quickly. Here's a big area that's ice free. This is the Laptev Sea. Right down here is the Delta, Lena Delta, where this whole area is considered, I think, the Lena Delta, where the Lena River comes up. It branches off, and there's a bunch of junk coming out. If you go back to some days where you're not looking through clouds, you can see well, we'll be able to see later on, but it's a lot of junk coming out there. Can't really tell right here, but it will as everything melts. It's a huge area, and there's no ice here. This is breaking up. We're looking through clouds here. We can see it breaking up. And then here is, this is Chukchi Sea. And this is the Beaufort Sea. Here's the Bering Strait. It's ice-free. We're looking through a bunch of clouds. But look at the ripples, the crosshatch. That's not normal. That is not normal. This is... Anyway. Got a lot of cloud cover here, but here we're getting into... This is the Beaufort Sea, and it's all melted up here and down into here. This is the Amundsen Gulf right in here. That's ice free. And then look at this big huge area that's already melted along the coastline of these Canadian islands. That's where some of the old sea ice used to live too. So you can see it breaking up all the way up to the 80 degree north latitude line. And Robin did a good report on the Arctic sea ice, but it's changing so quickly. It's and we're in the beginning of the melt season. Seriously, we're not even heavy into it yet. And once we get heavy into it, we will see noticeable changes on a daily basis. Now, if we go back a couple of days, we can see the sea ice here. That's sea ice concentration. So not very thick around those edges. The bluer it is, the less thick it is, the less concentrated it is. And it goes back a couple of days on that, because it takes them a while to accumulate all the data for their model, I guess. So I'll turn that layer off. So we'll keep an eye on this, and I'll be showing this more often as we get heavy into the melt season. And so with that sulfur dioxide mass coming over, I would think we would see something. This looks like smoke, probably from wildfires. I can't keep up with all of them. There's so many. And then it looks blue, and you know, that doesn't look normal over the land. But you know, you would think we would see a difference with that much sulfur dioxide, but it could be, you know, it kind of looks a little darker to me, just a darker tinge overall. That could be from the high sulfur dioxide. But so there's that. Now let's get ready for our earthquake report. First of all, let's see what's going on at the Oroville Dam. Now this is we're seeing inflows fluctuating. They've upped the outflow on the Hyatt power plant. It's about 7,500 CFS on the outflow now, and the inflows are fluctuating. Looks like the latest inflow at 6 p.m. was 4,045. At 5 p.m. it was 1997. At 4 p.m. it was 5534. At 3 p.m. it was 7655. You know, I don't know how it can fluctuate that much from hour to hour unless they're able to somehow control the inflow. And I didn't know that was a possibility. So, I don't know what's going on. But it's the lake level is steadily going down, and it's now at 895.47. And last night, at midnight, it was 895.86. So it's going down, but they're not using the main spillway. They're doing it through the power plant. So now let's look at some earthquakes. So we've got USGS for all magnitudes pulled up here for the last 24 hours. And we're showing 279 worldwide. And we can see a lot of big dots all around. And so of those 279, we've got 43 that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So that's definitely an uptick. And if you look on the map over here, most of them are high 4s and into the 5 range. The majority of them. We've got some that are lower, but it's rocking. We're rocking with the volcanoes and the everything. It's just, we're springing leaks, and it's like, you know, every point where it's building up pressure, it's having to release the pressure. And so we're going to see more points where it's releasing, and then higher releases at all those points. So we've got a lot of earthquakes to look at. So let's see what's about to come off the map. The first one is this 2.9 at Redoubt Volcano that came in last night at 6:57 p.m. So let's go on up to Redoubt. Let's look at all magnitudes while we're up here. Look at this clustering. Right around here at this Cook Inlet, this is right around the Redoubt Volcano, and that's the 2.9 right there. 103 kilometers deep. And here's a 2.5 at that came in at 10:37 this morning. There's the 2.9. Here's a 1.4, 2.1, 1.4. Here's a 2.8, so that's higher. That came in last night at 11:05. Now these reporting stations, some of them say Redoubt and some of them say Old Ileana, but this is the same area. And in this view we have 16 earthquakes. Here's a 1.5. So we've got some higher ones up here, right around Redoubt. You want to see where Redoubt is? Let's go to Google Earth. I always like to, if I want to know where it is, it's always fun to look it up. Let's see if my search is going to load. Here we go. Alaska volcanoes. See readouts right on top. And there are more than these, than the ones that are listed. These are just like the main ones. So let's zoom in. So we can see Mount Redoubt is right here. This is the Cook Inlet, and Iliamna volcano is right down here. They're fairly close together, so that's why the reporting stations sometimes overlap. So if we look at Redoubt, this is what it looks like. It's huge. It is humongous. And then Iliamna is right down here. It's the next one. And it's pretty huge too. There's the crater on that. So we've got earthquakes going off at both of them. And all around this area. So there's that one. That we'll just leave that. So here's Redoubt, and Iliamna is down here then. Oh, there's Iliamna. Okay, so where's Redoubt is up here. Okay, I was confused on my earthquake map. So these are actually happening down near Iliamna, but they're calling it Mount Redoubt. Here's that 2.5. See? So it's actually, they're actually coming in right down here, circling around it. Maybe it's coming back to life. Hard to know. I wouldn't doubt anything. I wouldn't doubt anything now. Here's a... Okay, and the next one is at 8:36. So we've got time to start wherever we want. Now see, they're still coming in. They're just popping in right along. And now we're up to 44 earthquakes that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So let's start down here in the Atlantic. We've got a cluster. I've got 3 right here north of Ascension Island in the middle of the Atlantic, right on this red line. There was a 5.0 at 12:51 this afternoon, a 4.9 at 12:59 p.m., and a 4.9 at 4:03 p.m. And these times I'm telling you are Pacific time because that's my time zone. Then coming on down at the southern end of the Atlantic was a 5.3 near Viscoy Island, South Georgia, and the South Sandwich Islands. This came in at 12:46 this afternoon, 105 kilometers deep. So that's right next to this Antarctic ridge. And this is the Western Archipelago or Peninsula. And so that's not very far from that earthquake there. Let's come this way now. Up here in Albania was a 4.7 near Urseki, at 6:01 this morning. This one is new here in Turkey, a 4.4 near Balkanabet, Turkmenistan at 6:18 this evening. Here's a 4.6 near Nepal, China at 6:20 this morning on the Tibetan Plateau. I think that's all of them that are on land over here. Now let's start down here in the South Pacific. 4.9 near Naifu, Tonga at 3:26 this afternoon. Then we've got two on the Solomon Islands. Well, they're actually in the ocean. There was a 4.6 near Dodley, Solomon Islands at 10:14 this morning, and a 5.1 at Dodley at 12:36 this afternoon. Coming on around. So right in this area is where Manam volcano exploded yesterday. Next we have a 4.4 near Tual, Indonesia at 8:36 last night. Here's a 5.1 near Karangbadar, Kidul, Indonesia at 11:47 last night, 81 kilometers deep. It's got the little wave, so let's see if there's a tsunami warning on that. No, I don't see anything from today. So next, let's here in Guam, a 4.6 near Narajan village, Guam at 1:31 this afternoon. Here in the Philippines, we've got some activity. There was a 4.5 near Barcelona at 10:02 last night, and a 5.0 the same place at 1:08 this morning, and then a 5.0 near Pintuan at 12 o'clock this afternoon. Now these were all in the ocean, so no damage, but notice these are higher, lots of 5s. As I was telling you, you're seeing bigger dots. The dots are getting bigger. That's how you know that things are on an uptick. Next was a 5.2 near Taitung City, Taiwan in the ocean at 12:44 this afternoon. And here's one just off the coast of northern Taiwan, a 4.5 near Keelung at 9:20 this morning, 159 kilometers deep. Here's a new one, just came in off the coast of Japan, a 4.5 near Orai, Japan at 6:13 this evening. Here's Tokyo, and here's Mito. So that's in the ocean. Here's a 4.3 near Nimuro, Japan at 11:57 last night. This is off the coast of the northern island of Hokkaido. Then here's one in these Kuril Islands, a 4.4 near Kurilsk, Russia at 3:01 this morning, 91 kilometers deep. Now the Rykoki volcano is right along in here. Is where that happened. Next, we're seeing more activity up here off the coast of Kamchatka, Russia, of 4.1 at 9:16 last night. Then coming over to South America, here's a 4.8 near Acari, Peru at 10 o'clock last night. Here's a 4.9 on land near Putre, Chile at 1:14 this afternoon, 126 kilometers deep. Then down here, a 4.5 near Coquimbo, Chile at 9:57 last night. And then we've got two, a 4.4 at Calangasta, Argentina at 11:30 last night, 118 kilometers deep. And a 4.5 at the same place at 6:20 this morning, 116 kilometers deep. Then we've got one off the coast of Mexico, a 4.5 near Pijijipan, Mexico at 1:05 this afternoon. I think that takes care of the international quakes. We just saw that one. We saw that one. Now let's go to 2.5 magnitude or higher. And we're going to start with Hawaii. We've got 13 here today, and a bunch of them are clustering around Kilauea. Here's the Mauna Loa volcano. There's the crater, but this is in the region. 2.1 and 2.3. Here's a 2.0 at Pahala. Then the rest of these, we're going to read these all together. There's 11. Wait, there's 10 here all together. They're all this 1.8 is at Fern Acres, and the rest of them are considered at Kilauea. This one's on the flank of Kilauea, 2.0. So I'm going to just call these off, and you'll see where they show up. 1.9 or 2.0, 1.9. Now the crater is right here, so you'll see that. 1.8, and see that's at a negative 0.6 kilometer depth, so that's up in the side of the volcano. 1.8, 2.0, 2.0, 2.1, 2.1, and 1.8. The last one came in at 4:08 this afternoon. So lots of activity there, and it's getting higher. They're getting up there, up into the 2s. Now at the Caribbean, let's see what's going on. This one just came in, 4.1. That's the highest we've seen here in a while. It's in the ocean, so it didn't cause any damage. Near Charlotte, Amalie, U.S. Virgin Islands, this came in at 6:50 p.m., 5 kilometers deep. So we got 9 here. So I'm going to call these off: a 1.0, 2.1, 2.9, 2.3, 2.7, 2.7, 3.4, 1.9, and then the 4.1. So those aren't big enough to do damage. I mean, they're in the ocean, except for this one that's on land. That's a 1.9. They probably didn't even feel it. They probably could have felt this 4.1, but the water buffers everything, so not as much damage and not as much shaking in the water. Now in Alaska, we have 99 here today. Of those, we have 7 that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. We've got, so I'm going to go around. We've got a couple at Kodiak, 3.1 and 2.5. Here in the Cook Inlet, it's a 2.5 and the 2.8. We saw those near Old Iliamna. Here's a 2.5 at Koktovik. Here's a 2.7 near Kobuk and a 3.0 at Kobuk. So those are the larger ones. So now let's go to all magnitudes. We've already kind of covered this Cook Inlet situation. What is going on here? We've got a 2.1 and a 1.5 at Larsen Bay. Here's Anchorage. So we're seeing it spread out rather than clustering at Anchorage. The movement is kind of spreading out more. Here's a cluster up here at North Nenana. There are 6 here. 2.0 is the highest. Look at all of these up north. There are 5 here. 1.5, 2.2, 2.2, 2.5, and 1.1. And at Kobuk we have 35 today, so that's an uptick. We saw that 2.7. And what was the other one? Like a 3? The other large one. Yeah, 3.0. So that's higher than we normally see up here. Then the rest are mainly in the 1s range. So there's Alaska. Now let's move into the lower 48, and we're showing 130 here today. Starting in Oklahoma, we have 4. 2.0 at Meeker, 1.9 at Medford, and a 2.3 and a 1.9 at Holdenville. Next, coming across here in northern Arizona, we've got two, a 3.8. The reporting station is Meadview, Arizona. That's high, 3.8. Oh my gosh. This came in at 12:58 this morning, and right next to it was a 3.5. The reporting station is Mesquite, Nevada, but it's right next to it in Arizona, and that came in at 2:07 this morning. So that's not, it looks like it's not in the Grand Canyon, but it's like, here's the canyon itself. So it's, but it's to the northwest of it. Coming on up, Utah is clear. Yellowstone is showing 4 here today. Here's a 1.6 at Lincoln, 0.9 and a 0.6 at Virginia City, and a 1.3 at Challis, Idaho. Then coming into the Pacific Northwest, we've got here on the edge of the Juan de Fuca Plate was a 3.1. This came in at 4:45 this morning. And then in Oregon and Washington, we're showing 4. Now on the tremor map, they're not showing any tremors from yesterday. No tremors. Which I always wonder. Always. Here's a 1.0 at Packwood that came in at 8:25 last night. That's at Mount Rainier. And then we've got 3 at near Mount St. Helens, or we got 2 in the crater, it looks like. We've got a 0 near Morton, a 0.7 and a 1.4 right at Mount St. Helens. Right in the crater. You want to see what Mount St. Helens looks like? It's huge, and it blew in 1980, and it was just showing little puffs, and they didn't think anything was going to happen, and then everybody came back, and then the little puffs and the little earthquakes, and then all of a sudden it blew. So there it is. It's a huge, look at that. Huge crater. So that could come back to life, definitely. There it is looking down in it. There's some tracks or something going down in there. How weird. Anyway. Hang on, I have to close my window. Okay, I'm back. I'm kind of choking up. You know, people start grilling, and then that smell goes everywhere, and it comes through the windows, and I can't breathe. So, you want to see Mount Rainier? Mount Rainier. That's not it. It's up. Here it is, Mount Rainier. Right here. That's the other one. I mean, they're so close together. Here's the crater over here. Coming on down into Northern California. Hold on. Okay. At the fulcrum point, we've got a 2.2 near Hydesville, where these three lines come together. The San Andreas Fault Line. This is the Cascadia Subduction Zone. This is the Juan de Fuca Plate. This is the Pacific Plate out here. So where all these come together, it creates a lot of pressure, and you'll see lots of activity around here. So that was a 2.2 at Hydesville last night at 7:42 p.m. Then here in the Reno area, we've got one to the southwest of Pyramid Lake at 0.9. Here's a 0.6 at Truckee. And then down south, we've got a 0.5 up at Virginia City, 1.0, 0.4, and a 0.4. This is south of Reno, and this is at Steamboat Springs. This is Geiger grade. Well, no, it's not that far down. This is Demonte Ranch Parkway. This is in South Reno, actually. It's not quite to Steamboat Springs. So it was right next to the freeway there. Okay, nothing in northern Nevada. Hawthorne is clear. We've got a couple down at Tonopah, near some down at Warm Springs. I'm not going to go over every single one of them. These are ones and under. There's a 1.8 at Warm Springs. That's the largest one. And then we've got 3 down here in southern Nevada. Here's one on the border, 0.5 and a minus 0.5. So here's a couple on the border, 1.1 and a 0.7. They're calling that at Mammoth Lakes. So at Mammoth Lakes, we've got those 2. So we've got 4 total. And it's 1.1 is the highest. Here's a 1.2 at Big Pine. There's the one at Beatty. Okay, we've got Lake Isabella 1.0, and then we've got Lone Pine right up here, a 0.6, and then 2 small ones at Coso Junction right here, 0.7 and a 0.8. Here's a 2.4 near Amboy, California. Now this is not Amboy, Washington, where Mount St. Helens is. This is in Southern California, right on the edge of Devil's Playground. Look at that. Lovely. So what was that? That's a 2.4. That's good size. Here's a 2.8 near Desert Center. So see, these are getting higher. Here's a couple down in Baja. A 1.8 near Ensenada and a 1.1 near Primo Tapia. Or Tapia, however you say it. Here's a 1.6 off the coast of Ensenadas. So let's see how many in Southern California we've got today. I can't get Baja on the map here. So we've got 45 showing here, plus those two in Baja would make 47. Let's see if there are any larger ones down here. We saw that 2.8. Okay. So they're just coming up along this red line, which is the San Andreas fault line. There's that 2.8. So they're just peppered around. So we've got 45. That's kind of a high number for this area. 2.1 at Fontana. That's near Glen Avon. I'm just going to look at some of the larger ones. 1.9 Ocotillo Wells. Let's look at Glen Avon. Here's Glen Avon. Here's Fontana. So we've got 11 here today, including 1.4 over there. So here's a 2.1. That was at Fontana. And the rest are ones, mainly ones, in a 0.9. Now, coming up this San Andreas fault line, here's a 1.2 at Tehachapi, 1.0 at Mojave, 1.0 Lake Isabella, we already saw that one. Here's a 0.8 at the Pinnacles, 0.8 near Alum Rock, 1.9 Windsor, and we've got a huge cluster here today at the geysers. We've got 34. That's kind of more than I like to see, especially on the weekend when the earthquake makers are not at home. The blasters. Notice we haven't seen any explosions today or quarry blasts. That's because it's Saturday. Saturday and Sunday we don't have those, and so normally we have fewer earthquakes, but we've got a lot of earthquakes today in spite of no earthquake makers at work. 1.7. Let's see here's a 2.4. That's the highest one, I think. Here's a 2.2, same place it looks like. The rest are ones and under. So we've had some activity while we were looking around. Here's a 3.0 at Chignik Lake that just came in at 7:09. And a 4.3 near Adak came in at 6:42 p.m. That's getting up there. This is, we saw that 4.4. Was there another one? I think that's it. It's still red on the map because it's still fairly new. Well, they're still rolling in, basically, is what we're seeing. See if there's anything else that I need to show everybody. We got those. We got Turkey. We got Japan. We got Ascension Island. I think that's a wrap. So, I hope everyone is having a safe weekend. I'm in the middle of a big decluttering project to help get my physical house in order and also help get my spiritual house in order. And I'm doing a little bit every day. I did a lot today. I'm having to do a lot of shredding. I'm covered up in paper, and you know, you don't see it when you put it in a box. And I worked about 3.5 hours today. I worked about 2 or 3 hours yesterday. I worked every day when I don't have to go somewhere. I'm putting in between 2 to 4 hours a day on it, and I'm just chipping away and getting rid of boxes, getting rid of papers, getting rid of things I don't need. And it's not so many possessions, it's just papers that I haven't gone through, and I've moved a lot, and instead of unpacking in between moves, I'll just throw stuff in the boxes when I move again. And I moved so many times in the last since 1993, and it's insane. And so now I've been in my present apartment for a little over 3 years, and things have slowed down enough for me to where, and I'm feeling better energetically, so that I can devote myself to decluttering and get everything a little more comfortable, because I live in a studio apartment, and you know, it's small. So there you have it. So that's what I've been doing. So until next time, I advise everyone get your spiritual houses in order, because I do believe the end is coming soon, sooner for some than others, and now's the time. So until next time, God bless, go in peace, and good night.